On today's episode, we're going to be discussing the topic of dog grooming. We're going to be talking about puppies and what to expect bringing your puppy to a groomer for the first time, as well as reactive and aggressive dogs and how to handle that. This episode is full of knowledge of things I wish I knew earlier. We're going to be discussing what really goes on behind those doors and what's really involved with dog grooming. It's a lot more than you think. So hopefully you get some knowledge. Hopefully you get some value. So let's get right into it.
Welcome to The Woofy Show, the ultimate dog lover's digest. Meet your hosts, Brian and Magda, two dog lovers ready to help you be the best dog parent, unravel the mysteries of canine behavior, and keep you updated on the latest trends in the dog world. This podcast has something for everyone. Get ready for heartwarming stories, expert advice, and a lot of laughs.
If you two want to go ahead and kind of introduce yourselves a little bit more, what got you into dog grooming? Like, how did it start? And, what do you like about it? So whoever wants to start first.
Sure. My name's Jessie Toll. I'm the general manager and reactivity and aggression groomer at Guyana Spa.
Okay.
Reactivity and aggression is my passion. That's why I groom. I own an aggressive dog myself. And if I couldn't do it myself, I don't know where I would take him.
Well, that's good
right?
experience. And it shows that like you can, clients can trust you because you know how to deal with it.
I've been grooming for, 9 years now. 9 years now.
Wow.
And it's absolutely something that you're passionate about or you don't do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. Fair enough. That's why a lot of people don't want to do it themselves.
It's a labor-intensive job. It's hard physical work, and it can be very stressful, right, on us as much as on the dogs that we're working with, depending on the day. And as such, if you're not passionate about it, you're not likely to succeed.
Yep. Fair enough.
So I'm Amanda Curry. I'm the manager of Guyana Spa Northwest. Been grooming for 7.5 years. And then I started because I honestly like dogs more than people.
Yeah, I think, we're like that too, actually. And most people we have on the show like dogs more than people.
Yeah,
and that's our kind of people. Those are our people, or people that would rather spend time with, my dog or your dog than each other.
I remember your dog's name, not yours.
Yes, and that's so true. I know so many dogs' names, and I'm like, what's her name again? What's his name again?
You can describe the person, but
I've had clients whose dogs I've groomed for years, and I can recognize their dog from 200 feet away.
Yeah.
I can look them right in the eye in the grocery store and have no idea who their human is.
Without the dog. I guess that's so true. Yeah, you're right. That's so true. Because you don't pay attention to that. So that's interesting. So
I started to specialize in double-coated breeds.
Okay.
And then I slowly worked my way into show grooming. And that's kind of where my niche is sitting in creative grooms.
Yeah.
So I do fun haircuts, dye jobs, the whole 9 yards kind of thing. Cool. Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start off talking about puppies, because obviously everyone eventually gets a puppy and they have to groom them. So what are some benefits of kind of introducing grooming to a puppy at an early age, whether it's at a physical groomer or the owners at home? So why should pet parents kind of do it sooner than later?
Partially it establishes a bond. The dog, when it's in its formative time, so the youngest, that 12-week mark to about 3 to 4 months, is when they super bond to the people around them. And then they learn to trust them even through those fear periods. So we always recommend, wait till at least your second set of puppy shots and then bring them in, even just for an introductory nail trim. Something that's quick and the parent is still there. They can watch literally from our lobby as we do it. And then that ensures that you can start off simple before having to, just into a bath, into a haircut.
Yeah,
where it's a little bit more traumatizing.
No, that's interesting. I guess that's true in the sense of just bringing them in. I know people say that with vets. It's like, before your puppy shots, just come in too, just for a little visit. A meet and greet so they can get used to.
And we do provide meet and greets as well. Yeah. We'll just book like a half an hour consultation to sit down with you and your dog and discuss expectations, what your budgets, things like that.
People are like, oh, I have this kind of, I have to do it how much? How often?
Yeah.
That probably happens. And they don't realize how often they have to go and get
you say
your
6 to 8 weeks and they go, what? And then you're like,
and that's,
oh, I'm
nails
sorry.
are more than that, to be honest. So depending on the dog. And
Often, yes.
Yeah.
The benefit of introducing them as well early and often is a dog is going to benefit from that consistency.
Yeah.
Something that is intrusive and difficult and strange becomes something that is normal and routine and part of our normal husbandry.
Yeah.
And as such becomes less stressful, less of a big deal, right? It means that those times on the grooming table can be far less difficult for a grown dog if they've started early and gone often.
Okay, that's true.
And safety as well. A dog that's nervous is far riskier to groom than a dog that's been comfortable.
Yeah, because if they move too suddenly, especially with like the nail trims and things like that, or
the nail trims,
scissors too. But
it's more we have to put sharp objects near eyes.
Oh yeah,
and sanitary areas that if they weren't comfortable with it, it gets a little squidgy.
If they move at the wrong time and the tool is in the wrong place, it could be a recipe for disaster. Now, a groomer with quick hands is very unlikely to injure your pup, right? But why not stack those odds in their favor?
Well, of course. Yeah. Why take the risk? Why take the chance and let them have a bad experience and then they'll never want to go again?
And then they'll need somebody like me.
Yes.
Right?
So what are some tips that you can provide like a pet parent to make grooming a more positive experience for their dog? So what can somebody do before they come to you or the day of or when they get there so then it's a positive experience?
Even if, so in the case of puppies, if you know when you're going to get a puppy, call around to grooming salons.
Okay.
Ask questions. Ask what type of, like we offer a puppy package where it's 2 introductory baths with like face, feet, and bum, and then 1 full groom. And then 3 nail trims in between so that you can do a long, short. And then we can step by step walk somebody through like, okay, bring them in for a meet and greet. At home, play with their face, play with their paws, pull on their hair a little bit, make sure we can go over having the right tools at home before you even bring the puppy home.
Oh, okay.
I've had a couple clients that are now long-term, like 7-8 years, that have done that, and now the dog falls asleep on the table.
Yeah.
So if they're introduced consistently what we're doing and what they're getting at home, they're going to not be stressed when they come to you. And they'll be used to the smells, the sounds, the sensations that we're providing them with at our shop with a safer experience, just because now the dog's not scared. It's used to all the things.
And I guess that kind of answered the next question was like any specific kind of grooming practices owners can do at home. So that's the same thing, playing with the paws, like pulling the hair a little bit, whatever.
Get them accustomed to being brushed.
Yes. Oh yeah. Brushing is
pick a very gentle, because puppy coat as a general rule doesn't tangle.
That's true.
Very easily, right? So it's very easy to brush a puppy out compared to what it is to brush out, say, a 10 or 11-month-old dog that's going through a coat transition, right? So start them early with a very nice, easy brush, like a pin brush, something that doesn't scratch, doesn't go too deep, so they can get accustomed to the sensation, the sound, the feel, right? So that it doesn't startle them when we do it, so that it's not a new experience. It's just something I do at home, except it's in a different place, right? When you're playing with paws, spread the toes. Touch the toenails, right? Because most dogs are okay, honestly, with us touching their paws. They don't respond to that. It's when we go to handle the individual toes. I guess so, handle the individual toenails. That's not something a
normal dog owner would do.
It's not something you would think about, right? But it is part of what we put them through. oftentimes we'll suggest after the first appointment, when we're starting to think about things beyond the basics like a bath and a brush out, we'll recommend that folks go get a cheap electric toothbrush. It vibrates like the clippers. It makes noise like the clippers, but there's no risk of injuring the puppy.
That's true.
Right? And you can run it over their body. You can run it over their paws. You can accustom them to the feelings that they're going to be experiencing in the shop in a safe environment with small positive sessions, right? If the puppy is struggling, you stop.
Yeah.
Right? Then there's no need to push through a thing, right? We can gradually become accustomed to the sensation so that when we are in a place where it kind of has to be a little bit about business because we're there with a goal.
Yes, of course.
That it's not as startling to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. The toothbrush, our Maple we could not take electric clippers to her. Luckily, we just cut her feet. And it takes way longer than it should because we just use scissors. But and it's something that we learned that we probably should have. And we have an electric toothbrush. We just never thought of using it in that way. But what about for like bathing a dog? Is there anything they can do with at home with a sink or a shower or whatever? Or is that not recommended?
I'm pro and against.
Okay.
Only because I've seen it go bad because the puppy at home usually can escape.
Okay.
Or it becomes more chaotic because we love our dogs, but our first go-to when they're not behaving is stressed out, I'm going to stop.
Yes.
That's the downside is they're teaching their dog that if it struggles or throws a tantrum, things like that you stop.
Okay.
So
especially
then
as a puppy, nobody wants to hurt their puppy or make
exactly.
them. Okay, yeah.
But then that behavior translates into other things. If I throw a tantrum, are they going to stop doing my nails? Are they going to stop doing my,
See,
paws?
that's fascinating because there's so much information out there of get your dog, put them in a sink, and it makes sense in our perspective. But hearing it from that perspective, that's
if you
so
have
true.
the ability and the relationship with your puppy to keep them under that stressful threshold and make it a positive experience for both of you, then absolutely do those kinds of things. It only benefits your relationship with your dog, right? If it is stressful for you or stressful for the puppy, you're not setting them up for success.
You feed off each other.
That's so true. And I guess that's where they kind of come in for the puppy package comes into play. 'Cause that's included the baths and stuff. So.
And oftentimes, once a pup has been introduced in the grooming salon and has had that experience a couple of times where, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Then bathing them at home is far less stressful.
I guess so.
Right?
Because they're
It's far
starting
less
off
of a
knowing,
problem.
doing it correctly instead of, them having the water too cold or too hot or something like that. And the dog's
they've
uncomfortable.
been gradually acclimated to the process. We've had an opportunity as their groomers to communicate back and forth with their parents about how they've done for everything, where they might struggle if they're struggling, how we're planning on working on that here so that they can work on it at home the same way, right? So as that relationship builds, then you can take as much of the husbandry as you want to do at home and do it. I have many clients that do 85% of the stuff at home, but there's just that 15% that they come to us for.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's fine too, right?
Especially here with the winter, the spring when everything gets muddy. That's when people are like,
Absolutely.
oh my goodness, what were you rolling in? Okay, we got to do this ourselves just to get the mud off. Maybe not full clean, but
we
got
rinse,
before you get in the house.
Hose out in the backyard.
It's funny though. Maple loves the hose, absolutely loves the hose, but you throw the shower head on, hates it. So I think it's just the situation, but I mean, luckily we don't have to groom her very often. So although we might have messed up a little bit, it wasn't so bad because she's not a regular groomer. So we'll move on to the kind of preventing aggression towards groomers. So this is a big one where I think a lot of even dog owners don't realize these are things they need to look out for. So how do you assess a dog's behavior when they come in for grooming? So say it's the first time or they haven't been in a while. And so how do you kind of assess how they're behaving to see how it will go?
Body language.
It is all about the body language, right? Dogs don't speak English. Dogs speak dog.
Yeah.
Right? So every movement that a dog makes, every flick of the tongue, every twitch of the ears, every wag of the tail, it all means something. It's all communication.
Yeah.
Right. So they're openly displaying most of the time how they're feeling about a situation.
Yeah.
Right. It's up to us as professionals to take a look at that language and understand where that dog is sitting in their brain. And for the most part, dogs are not the biggest fans of going to the groomer. Right. There's lots and lots and lots of dogs out there that are very nervous about leaving their people, about going somewhere strange. Yeah. Right. There's all kinds of things that come into play about how a dog might feel in the lobby of a grooming store.
I guess because the only other place that they're being left somewhere like that is a vet. And I guess and I know that's what a lot of people say, like, don't go to the vet just for fun visits too. Don't just go to get that. And that's very true, actually. I never thought about those can mean this. They can feel the same, even though it's a different location, but
we encourage people. I'm like, if you're in the neighborhood, stop in. We'll feed you some treats and send them on their way. Yeah. Like something as easy as that can change a lot of perspective, and especially in aggression cases where they don't trust to begin with.
Yeah. So, what are some like common signs of stress though that you see
licking the lips? That's
the biggest
one. Yep. Whale eye, where their eyes just
we just
blow
learned
out.
what that was. Like a couple of weeks ago, we did an episode on stress signals with dogs, and it was very fascinating to learn about that. And so I was like, oh yeah, I see that now. So
you'll see them hesitate. You'll see them lift one paw.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Whether sitting or standing, that denotes insecurity.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure what's happening here. So that's a dog that could go either way, right? Yeah. If you offer some reassurance or a treat reward in that moment, you may be able to win that dog over right in the lobby.
Yeah.
Right. But there are many dogs that are just going to be throwing that insecure body language because they are feeling insecure. Right. That's different than being aggressive.
Well, yeah, I was going to say
escalation.
Yeah, because I guess they'd be nervous and shy.
Absolutely.
And want to go away instead of being like, get away from me. And okay.
Yep. And it's very common for a dog under stress to just be a little reserved, to shut down a little bit, to not be engaged, to be right. We do it as people.
Yes.
Right. And the same kind of response is common in a lot of dogs when it comes to a dog being put in a stressful situation. Yeah. Lots of them will wait. I'm just going to wait and see how this plays out, right? Before they make up their mind either way. So you have an opportunity as their owner, to encourage.
Yeah.
It's okay. Go see right?
Yeah.
Keep it light, because if you're tense, they're tense.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Mm-hmm. Encourage them to be excited about the thing, right? Instead of, oh, you're so nervous. Yes, they are. And now they're
comforting
more nervous.
I know what you mean. So
right?
now they just feel like, if I'm nervous, I'll get comforted.
You're confirming it. Well, you're confirming it. There's nothing wrong. You can't reinforce a feeling.
Yes.
Right? So there's nothing wrong with reassuring your dog. It's okay, Jim. Let's go see your groomer, right? Yeah. You're all right, bud. Come on over here. You're okay. Here's a treat, right? There's nothing wrong with reassuring your dog. The difference between reassuring your dog and bringing that stress to your dog is huge. Right?
Because they're like, oh, but they're not comfortable. What if something happens? And if you as the owner are thinking that.
Then the dog's going, how come you're so nervous?
And they pick up on it so quickly.
Absolutely.
It's my poor baby mentality. Yeah. You'll be okay. Like I hate to say it, you love these people, but at the same time, you're like, oh, please.
It's not helpful.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes,
but they don't know that, unfortunately.
No, that's right.
And you don't ever want to say it because they love their dog.
Well, that's what this podcast is for. We will.
It's coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
Right.
Things like that.
It is coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of somebody that can see those signs of stress that you're talking about, and they know their dog is worried. They know their dog is stressed out, right? But that's okay. I am worried in the dentist office.
Yes.
When I go into the dentist office, my palms are sweating. Yeah. I'm showing all the physical signs of stress in a human. Yeah. Right? Am I okay though? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm stressed out. I don't want to do the thing. It's not my favorite thing.
No.
But it is a necessary thing in my life.
And once it's done, you're like, okay, it's done.
That's right. That wasn't so bad.
Yes.
Exactly. That wasn't so bad, right? And so even the ones that are very nervous can still be in a place where they can learn, can still be in a place where they can be brought to a place of more confidence the next time they come in, right? We might be nervous today, but depending on how things go behind those doors, depending on how things go on that table, the next time I might not be quite as nervous.
Yeah.
Because last time wasn't that bad, right? And some of them can come around very, very quickly, and some of them will always be upset about the groomers. The same way I am always upset about the dentist.
That's a very good
we ask a lot of weird and unnatural things of them. Like no dog in the wild is going to be like, here, lift my back leg and shave
that's
my
what you
sanitary.
said. No dog really likes to be groomed because it's not part of their like
it's very
DNA.
Intrusive. It's very
Hold
intrusive.
your head still while I get these sharp objects near your your
let
eyeballs.
me brush
and
these knots out of you. It's like
some of it's not exactly comfortable either, right? Depending on. Some dogs are far more tender skinned than others as well. There are some dogs that will sit there and let you brush them for hours and they are completely content. And then there are other dogs that the very first tangle that you tug a little bit is cause for a bite.
Yeah.
Right? The same way that some people have very tender scalps. Like my child, when they were little, brushing hair every night was an absolute chore. You would swear I was torturing the kid, but I was not torturing the kid.
Yeah.
Right? There are pups that just have very sensitive skin too. So for some of them, parts of grooming can be very uncomfortable, especially if there's mats, right?
Yeah. So how do you help like build trust with the dog, especially if they did have a negative kind of grooming experience?
Reading them and working at their speed.
Okay.
What we'll do is, so say it's nail trims they have trouble with. You kind of ask permission before you do. So in my case, I would like build that trust with the other stuff. So like give them scritches, give them love when they get up on the table. And then I start slowly scritching down the legs. I don't ask anything of them. I just give them scritches, let them know I'm touching them. And then when you go to actually touch them with the tool, start with the scritches. Work your way into just scritching the foot.
Oh, okay.
Start slow and just build it up and see how they tolerate. And then slowly introduce the tool over the foot. Bend the foot the way you need it. It's just kind of like a step-by-step where you're letting the dog know every move you're making.
Oh, that's very interesting.
But you're still doing it. So you're not taking a no for an answer. But if we need to stop and slow down, you're allowed to. Yeah. And if you say no for a second, I'll back up a step. Maybe I'll move the tool away for a second and just go back to scritching. It's 100% just seeing what the dog tolerates and working within that balance. Now, that being said, there are some dogs where you will never get the balance, but most of them will, if they don't like it, they never will.
Yes.
But they'll at least tolerate it, or at least tolerate it from you because you've shown consistency. So like I will start with the same foot every time I do a nail trim. On every dog I do, it's always the same foot. And then I do it the same order every time. So from the nail trim to the Dremel to the shaving the paw pads, same foot. So every dog that's on my table knows, okay, she's going to start with this foot.
And then they'll know when it's done too. So then it's like, okay.
And they know when they can relax.
Predictability and routine is key to building confidence.
Well, I think that's just all things with training and everything.
Absolutely. So if they know what's coming next, they can prepare themselves to either give you a yes or give you a no, right? And a yes is wonderful and a no is negotiable.
Yes.
Right? No now, but what if?
Yes.
Right? What if we move the paw a little bit differently? What if I use a set of nail trimmers that makes a different noise?
Okay.
What if instead of trimming, we Dremel?
Yeah.
Right? What if instead of standing up, you want to sit down? Right? So if it's a no in that particular fashion, in that particular moment, that doesn't mean that it's a blanket no.
Okay, yeah.
Okay? That's a no to that action in that
options.
moment. That's right. There's always another way to do a thing. There's always a different way to try a thing.
Grooming sounds extremely complicated. Oh my goodness.
If you're doing it right.
Well, yeah, I mean, you should be. Then,
if the dog on your table is learning and progressing and doing well, then you should be making these decisions and having these communications with the animal on your table always.
Yeah.
That's where your focus should be, right? It's what keeps everybody safe, them and me.
So if like a pet owner knows they have a bit of an aggressive dog, what are some ways they can kind of like help prevent it when visiting the groomers?
They can be honest with their groomer.
Okay.
Okay. I often find that people are afraid of being turned away.
Yes.
Okay. If their dog has behavioral difficulties, the worst thing that could happen would be for that dog to come in with a groomer that is not expecting that behavior and to demonstrate that behavior.
Okay.
Because the groomer could get hurt.
Yep.
The dog could get hurt. Right. And there could have been a way to prevent the trigger in the first place if the groomer knew it was coming. Right. So oftentimes he can be a little bit nippy.
Yeah.
Well, a nip is a bite.
What does that mean
right?
as well? Like,
a nip is a bite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Teeth are teeth.
So
Yeah.
how did we escalate to that point? What are our particular stressors, right? Are we okay with having our feet handled, but not our toenails, right? Does the noise of the toenail clipper bother us? Is the blow dryer too loud? Do we like our bath a little bit warmer or a little bit colder, right? All of these things, as honest as the pet parent is, as honest as that dog's owner is as good as we're going to be able to anticipate this behavior in advance.
So the more they set you up for success, the more you'll be able
and
to
their
succeed.
dog,
Yes.
right? And
Well,
their
that's
dog.
true.
And to be honest with that groomer, you may have a couple of groomers that say, I'm not comfortable or confident working with that. And I, as an owner of my own dog, would not want to leave my dog with somebody that wasn't prepared for the behavior
it's
that
like
they might
trainers
exhibit.
too. Like, certain trainers can't handle that. And
So my first step, if a dog was having difficulty grooming, is I would find the right groomer for my dog.
Yeah.
Okay. Call around.
yeah, well, I was going to say call around. Yeah.
Check with, because there's a couple of different, like even just in our city here, there's more than one person that does what I do.
Oh, you're not the only one? You just know?
No, surprisingly,
the unicorns out in the world? No.
There's not very many of us,
Yes, of
right?
course.
Because it's dangerous work. So there's not very many of us, but we are out there, right? So do your research. Put your dog with the person that is going to set them up for success, whose methodology, whose reinforcement, whose source of their skill set is something that you would feel comfortable leaving your dog with.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't just drop your kid off at a random daycare. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't just put somebody.
Would if I had a kid. No, I'm kidding. I don't have kids. I'm just saying.
You would
right,
want
though.
to make sure that it was somebody that you felt comfortable leaving your kid with. And same with your groomer, right? This person is going to be responsible for the welfare and safety of your animal for the next, for a little dog an hour, for a doodle 3 hours, right? Make sure it's somebody that you're confident in so that you can have that experience in the lobby about being confident handing over that.
It's interesting. It's more than just going for a haircut. Like it's a lot more like us. We go get a haircut. We're
we
in
hear
and
that
out
a
in
lot.
15 minutes. And that's something that like, again, because we haven't had to take our dog to a groomer, and I had a Shih Tzu, but I was like 10, so I didn't have to deal with that. But that's something that you don't realize. It's more than just going in for a bath or a haircut, and there's so much more involved. It's like, and I don't think people realize that, and that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, there is a lot more to dog grooming than just slapping a pair of clippers over a dog. There really is.
Specialty breed cuts and the reactive and then the health conditions, the body language, there's so much learning, and a good groomer will keep up with that.
Yes.
It's the ones that are like, well, I don't know how to do a basic breed cut.
Yeah.
Would you take your schnauzer that's in a breed cut to a groomer that didn't know how to do one?
Yeah. You find the right professional to work with your animal. And in consultation with that professional, you make an individual plan for your dog, right? Because what's going to work for Fluffy might not necessarily work for Bailey.
Well, you ask questions,
right?
same thing. You don't just go to any daycare for your kid or even a boarding facility with your dog without going to check that out first. Yeah.
There are lots of things that can be done to help decondition aggression to grooming at home, right? There are lots of things, but it's not something that I would give a blanket. This will work for every dog.
Depends on the dog. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So my true recommendation for that would be to do your homework, find your professional of your choice, and work with them to set up an individual plan for your dog's behavioral troubles.
Do you have any examples you can share, if you want to share, of a specific incident where you had a reactive dog and how you dealt with it? Or?
Oh, daily.
Okay. I mean, if there's anyone specific or...
Sure, yeah. There's a big difference, first of all, between reactivity and aggression.
Okay. Yes, we actually just had an episode that came out on a couple of days ago. Yeah, and it was literally someone said the difference between aggressive and reactive. So
it's a very distinct difference. And in my line of work, it makes a very big difference, right?
Yeah.
Reactivity is response to a trigger.
Yes.
Okay. So either desensitizing to that trigger or working around that trigger if we can't desensitize to the trigger. There are lots of ways to make grooming reactivity easier, right? I don't like my toenails done.
Okay.
That's what I was, right? Well, then what if we did them this way instead? What if we tried it that way instead, right? Whereas true aggression is not something that I'm going to be able to desensitize a dog to, right? So I have a different set of skills that I use for dealing with true aggression. And that is a focus on safety, right? So when I'm working with reactivity, my focus is on teaching.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
Every step that I make is about, like Amanda said, getting those little steps of permission. Okay, I'm touching your foot.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm touching your toe. Okay, now I'm tapping your toenail with my nail trimmers. Okay, now I'm trimming. Good dog, right? That's how I deal with reactivity, is incremental steps in the right direction. If we hit a trigger and we have a reaction, then we back up one step.
You know what caused that reaction.
Right.
So,
and then we move forward again, right? With true aggression, this dog is never going to give me permission to do that thing. It doesn't matter how patient I am. It doesn't matter how many times I try to ask permission. The answer will always be no. Right. And with aggression, you see, instead of those hesitation behaviors, you see a rise in arousal. So the dog will stiffen as opposed to communicating. They will still as opposed to communicating, right? They will give hard eyes. So that dog will not take its eyes off of you. Yeah. Instead of averting, it's going to focus, right? So it's very easy to tell which of the two that I'm dealing with. And my techniques with aggression are, as I said, things like bite gloves, things like groomers helpers, things like muzzles if needed, things like chill protocol, right? So if the dog needs some sedation prescribed from the vet, I will work with things of that nature too, right? There's lots of things that we can do to try to minimize the stress of the endeavor. But we're not going to be teaching today. We're going to be working today.
Getting it done.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's the difference between the two. And that's not to say that I can't teach an aggressive dog to trust me to do the thing.
Yes.
It may eventually trust me to do the thing, but it would still be every bit as much the hazard on another groomer's table.
Yes.
Right? Whereas a reactive dog can be deconditioned to the trigger itself and then would be fine on somebody else's table.
Yeah, that's the teaching method. Is there anything that a pet parent can do to help with the aggressiveness, or is that like a whole training, thing, or is that?
Again, it would be, I would say, to find your professional of choice, right?
Fair enough.
Especially with aggression, because dogs that have true aggression are not messing around.
Yes.
If you pick up a paw of an aggressive dog, you will go away bleeding if you're not coming in correctly and being prepared, right? And nobody wants that. The dog doesn't want that. You don't want that. And whatever professional is going to have to handle your dog in the future doesn't want your dog to have actually have a bite history before, right? If they don't have one yet.
Man, that sounds tough. That sounds tough.
As I said at the beginning, if you're not passionate, don't do it.
Yeah. It's the same, I guess, with trainers that work with solely aggressive dogs, because they're like, I want to help the dog. Let's do what we can.
It is. Yeah, it is training, right? Or it is grooming, but it's over here instead
and it's
of
true,
here.
and it's that thing of like, just because your dog's aggressive doesn't mean it doesn't deserve the chance to be groomed and to be clean.
Pretty, smell
look pretty, and smell. Yeah,
it still deserves compassion.
Quality of life.
Quality of life. There you go.
Yeah. Regardless of whether or not it struggles, it deserves compassion, it deserves competency, and it deserves patience, right? These are innocents. It's not like the dog is malicious on purpose.
Yeah.
Right? They're really not. They're not out to get anybody.
Oh no, of course. Yeah.
They're
There's
just
lots
scared
of
most of the
underlying
time.
issues that can happen
Yeah,
with that.
absolutely.
So, you said it's like going to the vet to some of them. So
I truly believe a dog bite is never the fault of the dog, right?
okay, yeah.
It can be the dog's genetics have let
Yeah.
it down. It can be the dog's training has let it down. It can be the dog's socializing has let it down. It can be the handling it's going through right now has let it down. But there is something in that dog
Yes.
that is making it
Of
bite.
course, yeah. Yeah. Anything to add? I guess not. That's
I mostly work with the nervous guys.
okay.
So
Fair enough. So yeah, that's on this side then.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, well, we'll move on to I guess health concerns for pet parents. So what is a health concern that pet owners should be kind of aware of before bringing their dogs in for grooming?
lice.
Oh,
Lice
okay.
are super common
What?
here.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
And
I
they
had
are
no idea.
constant struggle during the spring to fall months.
Okay.
We're talking tens a week.
Wow.
And 99% of them can be traced back to daycares and
Okay.
dog parks.
Yes.
Okay.
So please
If
make
you're
sure.
not on preventatives, get
Yeah.
on preventatives.
Before. Okay.
Yeah, that's the biggest one we see.
I
And
never
it's-
even realized, I guess, because obviously our dog hasn't had it yet, and well, we don't go to daycares or dog parks, so that's probably why. But that is something I had no idea could be a problem.
Dogs transfer them just as easily
Yeah.
as kids at school do,
Yeah.
right?
True.
You go to the off-leash park, your doodle has a tussle with Freddie over
Yeah.
there. They have a good play. They're all over each other.
Yeah.
And now Fluffy's taking home buddies.
Oh, okay.
and it is literally one of the most common health conditions
So
that
how
we see.
can someone know that their dog has
Excessive
lice?
itching.
Oh, okay.
If they are not on those types of preventatives and they do go to places like that, it would honestly just be better to be on them because we might not see your dog for 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
So now that being said, the only thing it can transfer to is cats. It cannot go to humans, cannot go to birds, but it is super contagious with other dogs. So when we see it in the shop, we have to shut down the shop for 20 minutes to clean
yeah.
and bleach because now we have to make sure we're keeping the other dogs in our shop safe. And then potentially have to contact those owners if they.
That is huge. Wow,
Yeah.
that is something that, like
Yeah.
you said, that, and if
Just
there's that
like if
many,
your kid caught lice
Yeah.
from school,
Oh, my
right?
goodness.
Yeah. And it's something I'm not sure why that folks around here don't know what a common problem it is, but it is a very common problem.
I mean, I didn't know that. And I think that we're going to have to clip that section to put everywhere as well so people are aware of that. Because I think
Every year we put notices up.
Wow.
Every year because it's not only detrimental to the dog because then if it's a social dog, you're having to quarantine it for up to 3 weeks while it gets its 2 doses of whatever medication the vet prescribes. But it can also cause, like in some curly coated, long coated breeds, for us to have to shave them naked because if we're in the process of a bath or a blow dry and we see little friends, we have to stop service.
Yeah.
Send the dog home. And then we can't brush it. It's wet. It's going to go home and roll in something. And then it's just going to become a mat unless, there are parents who are very diligent with their brushing. But then the dog's going to come back 3, 4, 5 weeks later and it's going to have to be
mess.
shaved.
Yeah.
Yep. And we don't want to do that because we like giving fun haircuts.
Yeah.
But those kinds of things don't give us much of wiggle room, unfortunately.
Is there any other kind of health concerns that you see other than that one? That's kind of a regular
Quite a
thing?
few, as many health conditions as there are dogs.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
Hip dysplasia, gum, teeth issues,
Heart murmurs.
anal
Do you
gland
like teeth
issues.
stuff as well? Or
No,
Okay, sorry, I was just questioning.
best done by a vet. And
Okay.
teeth
Yeah.
brushing, we find, is mostly a placebo unless you're doing it at home as well. Just like human teeth, you wouldn't brush them once every 3 months.
That's true.
It's not going to do anything. So we don't like charging people for something
guess
we
so.
know
That
isn't going to
you're
work.
not gonna do.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. That's I know you were talking about that.
100%.
So is there anything that, I guess how do you, so other than the lice one, which you've already talked about how you handle it, what are some other ways you will handle a grooming session if you do notice a health condition with one of the dogs?
There's There's lots of different ways to answer that question.
Okay,
As many ways as there are
fair
health
enough.
conditions,
I
right?
know, I guess, yeah.
If, say, for example, just to pick an example, okay? Say we have a dog with a heart murmur. Okay. How severe is the heart murmur? Again, we're going to be communicating with the owner to find out exactly what we are looking at here. The more information we have as professionals, the more educated a choice we're going to be able to make for the dog that's on our table.
Yeah.
Right? So my first step as a groomer is going to be to get as much information as I can get about that condition, how it's managed and how well it's managed. Okay. It's also my responsibility as a professional to stay up to date on as much as I can about the animal that's in my care. So I'm going to be watching for things that I would associate with that particular health condition, right? So in the case of a heart murmur, I'm going to be watching for blue gums. I'm going to be watching for labored breathing. I'm going to be watching for lethargy. I'm going to be watching for all of those things that come along with the dog's heart not working as well as I think it should, because I know the dog's under stress, right? As we talked about, it's not their favorite place lots of the time. So it's my job to monitor that dog, knowing that this particular part of this dog is malfunctioning. It's my job to watch the things associated with that particular part of the dog to ensure that if I notice the dog struggling, if I'm concerned, if I notice our gums are going a little pale, our tongue is going a little purple, right? We're not quite as responsive as what we should be. I'm going to stop. Okay. And I'm going to call their parent and I'm going to be like, hey, today might not be Fluffy's day. Right? Here's where we're at. This is what's going on.
Well, it's like you said,
right?
it's putting the safety of everyone, the dog included first.
Always.
So,
Health before vanity every single time, right? That dog could be covered in shampoo and still disgusting. And if it was struggling, it would go home.
Of course,
Right? Or straight to the vet. If I'm that concerned, I'm going to call them and say, meet me at your vet. Right? Like we're going now. Because the last thing I want is for a dog to have severe complications on my watch because I wasn't diligent, right? So if the dog, for example, had an ear infection, well, I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that I'm not introducing any more possibility of infection. I'm going to put cotton balls in those ears, right? I'm going to make sure that I'm not getting any water in them when I'm bathing them. I'm going to be super gentle brushing around them because that little guy's probably pretty tender, right? So it's absolutely going to affect how I go about my groom. And we have zillions of different tools and techniques and tips and little things as professionals that we can do to make those health conditions, to make those concerns less impactful on the dog and less of a concern.
So I guess, and I know you've talked about it as well, so we know how important communicating is.
And that's a big one.
So like, is there anything you want to add to that? Or is there anything, I guess, in the sense of things that people should be communicating that they're not, other than aggressiveness or
health conditions, for sure.
And is that something people don't, because they just think it's a bath.
They don't think to, right? So we'll get a pup in, and we'll get them into the bathtub and we'll get them on the grooming tether, right? To keep them from jumping out of the tub. And they'll start to cough and we'll be very concerned because that's a sign of a heart condition, right? So we will pick up the phone and we will call mom and we will be like, Mom, we're really worried about Fluffy. You need to come and grab Fluffy. Well, no, they always do that. They have a collapsed trachea. It's not their heart. Oh, well, I'll restrain them around the chest then, which I would have done in the first place if I had known, and I won't worry about it being a heart condition, right? So
you just like smile and nod and be like, well, why didn't you tell me?
always overshare rather than undershare. Okay. Your groomer, if they're interrupting you while you're talking to them about your dog's specific needs, is probably not the right groomer. Right? A real professional is going to want all of this information to make the best decision that they can for the dog that they're in charge of taking care of.
Would you kind of consider it as a groomer as similar to a vet when you go to the vet's office and they ask, how's everything been? Is there any problems?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Is like you need to treat your groomer like the vet, because they always ask you.
Fluffy had a limp 2 weeks ago, but he's been fine for 2 days.
Good to know. I'll keep
and
an
then
eye
we
out.
get them back and they slip in the tub, and that little bit of a limp comes back.
Yeah.
And we panic.
Because you didn't know that.
Because we didn't know
something
that they've had
happened.
a soft tissue injury or something, right? So definitely tell us every little
fascinating.
thing.
And everyone should listen. Everyone should listen. Because, these are things as a normal pet parent. Again, we don't go to groomers, but like you said, most people are like us in the sense of.
People are afraid, I think, to overshare, right?
Well, because they want to be turned away. That's what you said.
And they don't want to disrupt your time. They don't want to get in the way of you doing your job, right? But communicating this information with us is not getting in the way of us doing our job. It is giving us the tools to be better at doing our job for your dog.
Well, and definitely letting us know when you're booking the appointment too, because then we can ensure we have more
You're
time.
with the right person.
And
the right person too,
And like there are some groomers that won't take certain health challenges. Like I'll take a grade 4 heart murmur and work with it, but I know lots of groomers that wouldn't because the risk is high. Jessie worked unfortunately a paralyzed dog. Different risks entirely, different time frames.
Yeah.
So yes, on a normal day, I could get my little cavalier done in an hour and 10, whatever. But if it has a heart murmur, book me 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure if I need to stop, I have time to stop and cuddle this little dog for a few.
That if the dryer stresses them out, we can keep it on the low setting and we still have enough time to blow dry the dog, right? It's important that it's booked correctly.
Yeah.
That's just, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. But that's good. That's why people need to know these things. So in your opinion, how can the relationship between like you guys and or a groomer and the dog kind of help the overall well-being of a dog in like the future? So
you want to tell Kona's story?
Yeah, if you got a specific story, then we can go with a specific story.
Yep, sure do.
Is that Leon Burger? So actually, Jessie has a request dog. It's a Leon Burger. Sweetest dog. Been going to Jess for, 2 or 3 years by that point. And we were blow drying her one day. I was bored, so I was helping out. And good dog, so why not play with her? And there were red spots all over her body. And like bruised, dark red spots. So I called Jess over and I'm like, I think you need to call Kona's mom. And so Jess goes and talks and send the dog home basically as soon as she was dry, because you can't leave those guys damp or they get hot spots, which is another very common ailment. And then turns out it was she had an autoimmune disorder. She was actually internally bleeding. So the reason that we were concerned when we saw that red spotting is, again, this continuing education I was talking about. I had happened to see that kind of internal bleeding can manifest in those like bruise-like spots. And can often be a sign of an autoimmune condition. And so I was concerned. We called her to come and pick up her dog. I said, I've seen this. I'm not a vet. I can't diagnose it. I'm worried. She took the dog directly to the vet, and she had been internally bleeding. They were able to put her on steroids. They were able to manage her condition. And that interference, because a Leon Burger has 4 inches of fur. Her mom is never going to get through that to see her skin. If we had not been thorough in our checking of that dog's entire epidermis as we're doing our service, something like that could have been missed and she could have died undiagnosed.
Wow.
So you can actually build that relationship, get that correct communication, and save your animal's life through finding a condition before it becomes a life-threatening emergency. Things like cancers, things like cysts, things like we see every inch of that dog.
That makes sense.
Yes, we do. Every time we blow dry, the blow dryer spreads the hair and we see right down to the skin, right? We've found fungal infections. We've been able to find, there's lots of things that we've been able to help the people know were there so that they could be addressed at the vet and get the correct treatment.
Another common one we find a lot, because most dogs have hairy feet, is foxtails embedded in between the toes.
Especially in this city. Yeah, that's a big one.
And like the amount of dogs I've had to tell the pet parent, like, I'll finish because it's not like life or death, but I'm cleaning it. You need to take him to the vet because it's infected.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't know he wasn't pestering, but he was licking at it. Yeah. And that's, like, most people don't think about that because lots of dogs will sit there and lick themselves in a spot that they like. Yeah. But we get to see all of that, and we can build up our trust with our pet parent as well, because then if we find something like that, they're always going to come to us to be like, well, he's been scratching. Can you do an itch shampoo or something? And then we can kind of build on their personalized spa experience.
We're also in a very unique position in that we see them often enough, but not too often to notice changes, right? So if a dog has a little growth, right? And the first time we see it, it's a pea, right? And then the next time they come in, it's like a slightly bigger pea. Yeah. Their people at home might not have noticed that change because it's been gradual,
every day,
right? But me, who has not seen that dog in 6 weeks, and it's 1/8 of an inch bigger, I can be like, hey, were you aware that this is growing, right? So we can also kind of help to keep our eye on chronic conditions in a useful fashion, because we're not desensitized by seeing it every day. Right.
That's true.
But it also hasn't been, like, if you go to the vet, it also hasn't been 6 months or a year since the last time that I've seen
like you said, you see them more often than a vet, hopefully.
Yeah, not too often, but often enough.
But more, okay.
Yeah, we're in kind of a sweet spot for being a teammate, a helper in managing chronic conditions.
Like skin conditions, the amount of dogs we have that come in with chronic skin conditions, and the owners rely on us to let them know if it's getting better, if it's getting worse, if it's spreading, because we see it, where the vet, the only way they're going to see it is if they shave the dog.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, like you said, with the hair dryer,
blow dryer,
absolutely.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, there's a lot that goes on, and that's why you got to find a trustworthy groomer.
Groomers are absolutely skilled individuals. It is not a grunt job. It is not an unskilled labor job. It is a job for passionate, dedicated people.
And it takes thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours
Grooming
to
is way harder than being a trainer, that's for sure.
No, different. Trainers have to train the people.
Yeah, well, that's true. And so that's the thing. Yeah, that's very true. And similar things. It's like a trainer will see a dog kind of often, and they'll notice things.
Yes,
but not the same types of things that you guys notice.
Different focus.
Yeah. So that's fascinating. So is there anything else you kind of want to add or say or talk about before we wrap up? This is all the things I had to ask. If there's anything you think people should know that we didn't discuss about grooming, or
be aware of the grooming needs of the dog that you're going to purchase if you're in the market for a dog. Okay. So if you like a big fluffy teddy bear looking dog and you get yourself a doodle and you're expecting that dog to stay in a big fluffy teddy bear cut, that's awesome. Yeah. Kudos. Understand the amount of labor and time and effort and money that is going to have to go into keeping it that way, so that you don't disappoint yourself and let down the dog in your care, right? If you're not the type that's going to be able to brush your dog for a half hour to an hour every week, don't keep your doodle in a long coat. It won't stay. Right? If you are a wash and wear kind of a human and you're just not, I'm not going to spend their time after work sitting at home brushing my dog. Yeah. I'm not. So I have 2 no haircut dogs and 1 dog that I keep in a manageable haircut, short enough that it doesn't tangle. Right? And that's matching the dog appropriate grooming needs to the dog that's coming into your family. If you don't have the budget to get your doodle a haircut every 6 to 8 weeks, don't opt for a doodle.
I guess that's true. Those are things. Well, and that's with everything.
Or
about
learn
dogs.
to do it yourself. Right.
And that's with everything with people and dogs. It's they don't really know. They're just like, oh, I saw this one looks cute, and they don't realize.
Be aware. Just be aware. Right. Different dogs have different needs. Like you said, behaviorally, energy level wise. grooming wise as well. So have it be a determining factor in the type of dog that you choose to bring into your home.
Brushing is a lot of work. We do it a lot. So,
it's
we neglected it for a little bit, and she got so many knots, and we had to just cut them out, and it was terrible. But so learned our lesson. But that's a very
now
valid
you've learned
point.
what a good brushing can do.
So that's a valid point. Anything that you want to add, Amanda?
Pseudo personal opinion.
Okay, that's fine.
And this is just because I own a herding livestock guardian breed. Please introduce your farm dogs to grooming if you plan on getting them groomed, and do it early.
Okay.
I do a lot of them. We see a lot of them, and they're just terrified because they never leave.
Yeah,
they never.
People don't think. I also as a farm dog, I don't need to groom them when they want to one day.
But
or have to.
Yeah,
or have to,
because just like a vet, if it's never been handled by different people, you don't even have to get them groomed all that often. It's more just about getting them used to the handling.
Yeah.
Because there's more than once where I've had, I love Great Pyrenees. They're my soul dog. But there's been quite a few that I've seen that are terrified. They will pee themselves rather than be touched by other people. And it breaks your heart because you're like, sorry, buddy, you don't have a choice. Yeah. So that's another one. Even if you have a low maintenance or thought to be low maintenance breed, just introduce them for the handling, if nothing else. Because there are going to be strangers that have to handle them at some point in their life.
Yeah, and it's not just groomers. It's vets.
That's a good point.
Like, I have a reactive dog at home, Pyrenees mix, and regardless, she's still comfortable with her vet because I made sure she comes into work once in a while just to, get the experience of being around other dogs in a safe manner. I still try to give her some experiences. So if I have to do those things with her, she's not going to be completely caught off guard. And that's what happens to a lot of these guys. Same with rescues. Bring them in, even if it's like a short-haired little pit bull or a chihuahua. Bring them in because then we can also assess them for you and be like, you should be able to do his nails at home, no problem. I'll show you how. Things like that go a long way in helping your dog just become more confident with any husbandry work. Yeah, not just grooming. Yeah. So, personal opinion.
Yeah, no, but I mean that's. I think that should be an overall opinion, to be honest. So that makes sense, actually. Okay, no, that was awesome. That was all the questions I have. If you both want to actually share where people can find you, especially for the local Calgary people, if you have social medias, that kind of stuff, you can share where they can find you guys.
We've got a couple Facebook pages, one for our north and one for our south shop. So they're under Cayena Spa Northwest or Southwest. We also have Instagram pages that are the same, as well as a TikTok. As well as I have a personal grooming Instagram through Cayena. Most of us do, as well as my personal Instagram is CollieFanatic23. So.
And then all of that information is available on our website as well. Yeah. And that's, what is it now? cayenaspa.ca.
Yeah, I'll have the link to it somewhere anyway for people to know.
Absolutely. There's also groomer biographies of all of our groomers that are in shop, and kind of a snapshot, as we were saying about putting your pup with the right person, kind of a snapshot about who they are and their passions and what they believe in, and the pups that they work the best with, right? Awesome. Cayena Spa itself, I was the first groomer. 5 years ago. We've only been around for 5 years. It's astounding to me that we have two shops. But the idea, the heart behind this place was that this is a shop that every person can bring every dog to and find a good match. So we have groomers that are exceptionally gentle. We have groomers like Amanda that do an amazing professional show-worthy tidy, right? We have groomers that specialize in making everything cute and adorable. And then we have people like me who will take all comers. I will find a way to do it together with me and the owner. We will figure it out.
And then do you guys travel between the two? If you have people that say live in the north and they only want to go to that one, but they want that groomer, or no, if they want that groomer, they gotta go?
We have split up the shops officially.
Yes.
So once the north shop opened, like myself, and then 2 other groomers are in the north shop full time. And then the south shop has a bunch of groomers that are dedicated full time. Jessie is the only one that kind of splits in between, just because of their reactivity work, as well as being the general manager. They kind of need to be in both places at once.
I will say that if anybody out there thinks that I'm the right fit for their pup, my appointments at the south shop are pretty much gone. So it would have to be aggression or reactivity referrals would go up north.
Good to know for people.
Which is nice too, because it's a bit quieter still. So it's really nice for those nervous.
Not as many of us that live up here. No, that's awesome. Okay, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. And
that's it for this episode. Hopefully you learned something from our guest today. If you did, please let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like the video if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't. If you're listening to this on the audio platforms, we would love it if you gave us a follow and rated the podcast as well. That would really help us out. We also have a new ebook that you can get for free. It's based on dog enrichment and dog enrichment activities. So you can find the links for that below as well. Make sure you go and check it out, download it. Again, it's free. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.